Chapter 18. Through desire a man, having separated himself, seeketh and intermeddleth with all wisdom. A fool hath no delight in understanding, but that his heart may discover itself. When the wicked cometh, then cometh also contempt, and with ignominy reproach. The words of a man's mouth are as deep waters, and the wellspring of wisdom as a flowing brook. It is not good to accept the person of the wicked, to overthrow the righteous in judgment. A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth for strokes. A fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. The words of a talebearer are as wounds, and they go down into the innermost parts of the belly. He also that is slothful in his work is brother to him that is a great waster. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it and is safe. The rich man's wealth is his strong city, and as an high wall in his own conceit. Before destruction the heart of man is haughty, and before honor is humility. He that answereth the matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him. The spirit of a man will sustain his infirmity, but a wounded spirit who can bear? The heart of the prudent getteth knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeketh knowledge. A man's gift maketh room for him, and bringeth him before great men. He that is first in his own cause seemeth just, but his neighbor cometh and searcheth him. The lot causeth contention to cease, and parteth between the mighty. A brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city, and their contentions are like the bars of a castle. A man's belly shall be satisfied with the fruit of his mouth, and with the increase of his lips shall he be filled. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor of the Lord. The poor useth entreaties, but the rich answereth roughly. A man that hath friends must shew himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. Chapter 18, verse 1. Through desire a man, having separated himself, seeketh and intermeddleth with all wisdom. Now this, having separated himself, can have several meanings. But the one that seems most appropriate here basically means having put himself in a position to be a judge, whether it's a legal sort of thing in the community, or whether just setting himself up as though he were capable of making judgment, or offering his services to do that, or pretending that he is. Seeketh and intermeddleth with all wisdom. In other words, because he has desired to be well thought of, having set himself up to judge other people and judge other circumstances, he seeks and meddles in other people's affairs and undoes or creates problems instead of giving wise solutions. This is sort of the meaning of that one. Verse 2, a fool hath no delight in understanding, but that his heart may discover itself. He's hoping. Most fools are not interested in understanding anything except themselves. They're not interested in understanding what other people need from them, how to behave around other people, nothing else. Verse 3, when the wicked cometh, then cometh also contempt. So when you have somebody who speaks contemptuously of other people negatively, oh, that person never does anything right, oh, they're terrible, oh, this, oh, that, that's contempt. And with ignominy, which means total permanent disgrace, not necessarily permanent, but disgrace, humiliation, all those things, that's what ignominy is. And with ignominy, with embarrassment, comes reproach. People don't want to have anything to do with you if you embarrass them or embarrass yourself when you're with them. The words of a man's mouth are as deep waters. Deep waters are usually tend to be calm and slow moving, and easy to negotiate, and the wellspring of wisdom as a flowing brook. In other words, it tends to keep on happening. The flowing brook keeps supplying water. So the wellspring of wisdom, the source of your wisdom, tends to keep giving you more wisdom. A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth for strokes. Strokes means being whipped, lashed. We don't usually think of that these days, but that was it. That was how they viewed it. And it wasn't that they would do it, but that they would think, if this person is really that stupid, that may be the only thing that actually gets them to shut up and be wise. The words in verse 8, the words of a talebearer are as wounds, and they go down to the innermost parts of the belly. In other words, somebody who knows something. A talebearer is somebody who's a gossip, who tells things that they know about other people, who make it their business to find out embarrassing or negative things about people and tell them around. Oh, you may not. Did you hear that about Mary? Did you hear about Fred? Oh, yes, it was totally terrible. Oh, that's a talebearer. And their wounds go down to the innermost part of the belly. The bowel was where you felt stuff in Hebrew way of thinking. And so to go down to the innermost part of the belly was to hurt you to the very core. And so that was, don't listen to talebearers. You know, the best thing that they can have is to have their audience say they don't want to hear. A rich man's wealth is his strong city, and as a high wall is his own conceit. So a rich man's wealth is what he relies on to defend himself against everything, to protect him from everything. But that's conceit, because really what he needs is he needs righteousness. Before destruction, the heart of man is haughty. Ha ha, I'm better than anybody else. And before honor comes humility, being willing to serve those who may not be at the same economic, social, or other level as you, but understanding that they matter to Heavenly Father too. And you're no better than they are. You just might have more. The spirit of a man, verse 14, will sustain his infirmity, but a wounded spirit who can bear? The spirit of a man can sustain him. A good spirit can sustain him through an infirmity that he might have. Pain, disability, whatever. But a wounded spirit, in other words, a negative, hostile, poor me spirit, who can deal with that? And that can be a person who's that way. It could be you who's that way. Okay. Verse 16, a man's gift maketh room for him, and bringeth him before great men. The giving of gifts to others does something. It helps other people recognize that you have value as a human being, perhaps to give a good gift. The time comes when somebody needs something from you, and you give a worthwhile gift instead of the least you can get away with. The vast majority of people give the least they can get away with. And people don't think much of that. But give a generous gift. Not as a bribe, but just because you can share and want to. And that's a great thing to do. Verse 17, he that is first in his own cause seemeth just, but his neighbor cometh and searcheth him. So what happens is, if you think you're, in your own cause, you're the first one there, you're doing the self-promotion, but what happens is people start to ask questions. Verse 18, the lot, which means the casting of lots, causes contentions to deceit, and parteth between the mighty. In other words, if you're going to argue about something and you cast lots to see who is right, then that ends it right there, if you are willing to agree. And verse 19, a brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city, and their contentions are like the bars of a castle. If you had somebody who was really close to you, and you did really horribly offend them, they can be so upset with you that they never talk to you again. Harder to be won back. Their contentions are like the bars of a castle. Used to be thought of as steel bars, iron bars, that you would never escape from. And that's what this means. You'd never ever get back.